about 16 slices in a pound, so it's about 30 cents a slice. You know what I'm saying? So,
I guess I didn't do the math on that, because when I go when they have the buy one get one free.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I stock up on cheese then, because it don't go bad unless you open up the package, right?
That's right. So obviously I got grocery store issues, but I just wanted to say real quick, you know, because since we're talking about anything, these grocery stores, now when I was a kid, you go to the grocery store with your mom, and they would make a profit of, you know, maybe 10 or 15 cents an item, and they'd sell a lot of items, and they'd make a lot of money. Nowadays they got items, they mark them up $1, $1.50 per item, and they don't care if they sell a lot less because they're still getting that huge profit margin. But we all have to pay for that.
Well, they claim they've all marked down all their prices.
Yeah, I guess if you go to all 5 stores, you could eventually get your groceries.
There you go. I mean, you know, you have to go from store to store.
Yeah.
I have to go to the store tonight. I'm out of dog food, and I forgot to buy some on the way in. So.
Well, if you buy anything else, you might have to pay extra, but you can get the dog food on sale.
Well, I buy that Economet stuff. It's always $5 for 20 pounds anyway. I figure if the dog eats it and then the dog don't care, what do I care if I see some of that dog food out there. It's $20 a bag. I'm thinking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you know, and some of that, and it looks real good. You know, I guess poor people used to eat the dog food, but now it costs more than hamburgers, so you're just better off eating the hamburger.
There you go. All right. Thanks for checking in there, Tiger. Robert, you're on the big one.
Rick.
Yes.
Bob Zook, how are you? I drive for Westlake Cab Company.
Oh, welcome.
Welcome, how are you? Listen, talk a little bit about politics, about Cleveland. I take a lot of people to the airport early in the morning.
All right.
And they go all over. They go to Seattle, they go to Beijing, China, they go to Chicago. And I ask, what's your favorite city? Everybody likes Chicago.
Well, I've never been.
Why is that?
I don't know. I've never been to Chicago.
Why is that?
Well, there's probably because there's things to do.
Thank you.
There's nothing to do here.
Thank you very, very much. You know what we should do with our politicians? We should put them all in a U-Haul and take them to Chicago for about a year. And let them learn.
You let them look around and see what a city that really has things going on. Yeah.
To make it work. Not charge 50 cents for parking at night. Did you hear that about 6 months ago? They want to charge parking.
Yeah, I don't want to pay parking at night. No.
There's something wrong with this whole program. But who do you blame?
Well, I think you're right. The politicians, they're all greasy and they're all getting theirs, and so the city can go down to I said a casino in Cleveland. I've been saying this for a long time would be a great idea. I mean, why would you have why are they talking again about putting in a convention center? Who the hell wants to come to Cleveland? You know, the convention center is secondary to having something else to do.
Sir, you had a convention center by the IX. That could have been perfect, like McCormick Place in Chicago. It's right there.
Oh, that's not going to grease anybody's palms if we.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, see, I know how the world works. Greasy. Don't make no money on a building that's already there, do you? Tony.
Hey.
You're on the air.
Hey, I think that, about the cars.
Yeah.
From like 1968 to like 1972 was about the best years.
Yeah, I kind of narrowed it down to 68, 69. But you're right. I mean, after 72, they lowered compression on cars, and they weren't as fast, and,
Exactly. And see, my brother and I, we just coming back from International Falls, Minnesota, with a 1971 Camaro.
All right.
Back in the truck, so hey, that's what I think about that. And that guy...
What, he went there and bought it?
We went there and bought it, just now. We're just coming back, left Friday, coming back today.
I mean, I don't, you always hear about people buying a Southern car. You don't hear about people going to International Falls to...
I know, I couldn't believe it. I got it on eBay,
Is it clean?
It's not bad. Needs a little work, but...
Did you buy it right?
Yeah.
Couple grand?
Yeah, not too bad.
There you go.
Expensive. But that guy was talking about Chicago. We paid $5 to go over that bridge.
Well,
from the toll, $4.80.
Things in Cleveland, even though there's not much to do, I will give it this: it's pretty cheap to live around here.
Yeah, it is.
But it ought to be because there's nothing to do.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, aside from if you went to the Rock Hall, you've already been to the Rock Hall, and I mean, aside from sporting events, there's nothing going on.
Nothing at all. That's why I had to go get a car for something to do.
There you go. Keep you busy restoring a car.
That's right.
Because if you want to go gamble, you're going to have to go out of state.
Yeah, well, I don't have any more money left.
Well, all right. Well, all right. Well, I'll talk to you later there. I just kept thinking, that broad brush is a hell of a horse, speaking of gambling. I know that from my buddy Jim from Window 4. I call him Window 4, and people look at me like I'm nuts. And well, if you never go to the track, I guess you don't know Window 4, do you? Window what? What are you talking about, Rick? You're making no sense. I make plenty of sense. Dino, you're in the air.
Yeah, I want to touch on a couple subjects.
Sure.
One is you were saying 68, 69. I say the realm of 70 to 69 because 70 you come with body change on the Camaro, split bumpers. You had the 70 Cuda, 70 Duster, 70 GTO Judge, 70 Chevelle. I mean, if you really think about it, 70 was like a turning point. They were getting ready to lower the compression. But then, like you said, if you go back, you get the 68 Goats. I mean, that's a hard toss-up there.
All right, let's go 68, 69, 70, the best years for cars ever.
Yeah, because as soon as you got into 70, they lowered the compression, and then they really started tearing up the body styles and everything.
And if you just include 68s, a lot of cars didn't have disc brakes and that sort of thing. And
yeah, I mean, I think it was a real big turning point because they changed a lot about, and you had the Buick GSs in 72.
Well,
I mean, cars that people don't remember, but the 70 Caddy Coupe de Ville convertible.
70 Eldorado with a 500 cubic inch, 400 horsepower engine.
Oh, yeah, the ribs.
You know what the smart people that used to build T-buckets, they'd just get a caddy motor, stock, and put it in a T-bucket, and you got 375 horsepower or 400 horsepower. You don't need to build the engine.
You know, it was real strange, too, that I never knew they made, and I had seen it in a documentary. They made a 70 Camaro station wagon. And they only produced like 500 of them. I never believed it, and I seen a big documentary in a program once about it, and it was kind of the weirdest thing I've ever seen, but it was kind of cool looking at the same time.
They didn't make that many, did they?
No, they made like 500 of them, just to try the market. Another thing on the gambling, the thing that really pisses me off about that is Taft says, you know what, as long as he's in office, we're not going to have slot machines, there's not going to be no pole arms. You know what? I live in Northfield. I'm across the street from the racetrack. That's where they want to have it. I can go 4 doors down, and there's 2 slot pulling places there for supposedly churches and stuff like that. So there is one-armed bandits in Ohio already.
Well, there's plenty of bars you can go to have those instant bingo tear-off tickets.
The pull-offs.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a ton of pull-out, and like I said, he says there ain't going to be no one-armed bandits, but I mean, they're all over the place.
Well, there's gambling, and then there's what Bob the Jellyfish Taft considers to be legal gambling, or whatever. Bob Taft, who's just merely under the thumb of George Voinovich anyway, I think he's afraid to stand up to the lottery. I think he's afraid to stand up to the Catholic Church. I think he's afraid somebody won't like him. Well, if you're a politician, guess what? You better have pretty thick skin, because a lot of people don't like him anyway.
And the last one is what you were talking about, racism. There is racism in the grocery store.
Really?
Yes, there is racism. Yeah, if you go down the cereal aisle, you see the Frosted Flakes, the Golden Grams, then you're cuckoo for Cocoa Pebbles. And if you go into the olive section, why are the green olives in a glass jar and the black olives in a can?
Wow. Never considered that. Maybe the black olives go bad if the light hits them.
I don't know, but if you really look, if you're going to try to buy beans in the store, you can find the white navy beans all over. If you got to find the black-eyed peas or beans, you can't find them.
Can't find? Well,
it's in the bag.
But if you look at the black olives, they're the same size as the green olives. So I guess that's all just a myth and a fallacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, the black olives aren't bigger.
Actually, I like the black olives better than the green.
Do you really? I like the green olives. I like the black olives. It depends, but I hadn't considered the fact that the black olives, they hide them in the can.
Yeah, you never thought about that, did you?
Nope, I did not. All right, thanks for taking the time to call. Wowzers, we're going everywhere, aren't we? That's okay. Jim.
Yes.
You're on the air.
Thank you for taking my call. I listened to your show. You've got a good show.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to back up, talk a little bit about muscle cars and sports cars.
Okay.
I think the best thing going on right now is late 70s, early 80s sports cars. I think they're done depreciating, and if you go to an auction, for example, a Corvette or a Ferrari 308, they're probably in the teens or the $20,000 range. You buy it, you hold on to it, and I think your investment will grow in a short period of time.
Yeah, the only problem I have with stuff like Ferraris is when I hear about a guy who took it in for a new clutch and it cost him $4,000.
Well, if it's maintained properly and you drive it properly, they are a little on the high side to a fix, but in the long run, they're like the Magnum. Remember Magnum PI?
Yeah, the 308 GTB.
Right. Those cars, I think, are at the bottom. I don't think they're going to go any lower. And if you buy one with that's been maintained with papers and you hang on to it, I just think it'll go right through the roof as years go on, and you'll have a good investment. You'll enjoy it, and you'll get your money back, and you won't lose your shirt.
Remember what happened with the '59 Cadillac convertibles?
Right. Exactly.
And, it was odd because you have to be careful what you buy, because people were out there buying them for $50,000 because they figured they were going to go up to 100, and now you can buy one for 25.
Right. Well,
But with a Ferrari, you're probably right. You're probably not ever going to lose money on it.
There's not too many around. Plus, it's a world market. The most of the 308s, the majority of them were sent to the United States, and you have people from England, or you have people from all over Europe, from South America, coming to the United States and taking the cars back.
You know what's really a bargain, too? Mercedes.
Yes.
There's Mercedes out there. You can buy a Mercedes convertible, a 70s, from the 70s. You can pick some of them things up for under $10,000.
Exactly, a two-seater convertible.
And they're never going to be going, and unless it burns to the ground, it's never going to go down in value.
I don't think so. You have to maintain it and read the book to take it in for service, and you have a two-seater, the top goes down, and you can park it in front of the restaurant, and it looks like $1 million.
That's right. You can in fact, I've seen people do that where I drive by and I think, little does anybody know that car's 25 years old.
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter that it's 25 years old, and you could spend so much less money than going out and buying a new one and just impress people just as much.
Exactly. And people forget it's a world market for these sports cars, and that's just the United States. Some of these dealers on the coast, West Coast and East Coast, they ship them out of the country. So I just think it's any 80s Ferrari right now are done depreciating, and I think as time goes on, they'll start going back up.
Good advice. Appreciate it. Triple Doppler forecast from TV3's Betsy Kling. Tonight, cloudy out there. Well, of course, it doesn't really matter if it's cloudy, does it? It's dark. Low in the low 20s. Tomorrow, clouds, sun, high of 40. Currently 26 degrees in Cleveland. 26 tomorrow morning on Wills and Coleman in the morning. Get your best Browns coverage on the big one. You got the guy that won't fly, John Madden. Doug Deacon, Butch Davis, Barry Stokes. Browns get ready for prime time tomorrow night. Wake up informed, weekdays 5 until 9 here on the big one. Don't be a dum-dum. Listen to WTAM 1100. Listen to Wills and Coleman in the morning from 5 until 9. Especially, we're your official weather station. And, winter weather is upon us. And you get instant school alert closings and delays and all that every 15 minutes at the top, bottom, 15 and 45 weekdays on Wills and Coleman. Plus, they'll keep you apprised, keep you abreast of how the traffic is out there. How many times have I gone someplace now and I tune in the station because it's one of those where you think, geez, if I just listened to the radio when I come over that hill and the whole highway's a parking lot, gee, if I just listened to the radio, I would have known what was going on. But no, once you're stuck, then you're sitting in traffic and you're thinking, why didn't I listen why didn't I tune in? Tony, you're on the air.
How you doing?
All right.
I want to talk a little bit about politics of Cleveland.
Sure.
Something that a caller earlier alluded to about a convention center. I'm wondering how much better off Cleveland would have been had we built a stadium with a retractable roof.
Well, that's been a debate for a long time. People have always said, geez, here's a stadium that's only going to get used, 8 times a year?
Exactly.
And if we had a roof on it, then we could have used it as a convention center as well. But the wrong-headed idea about the whole convention center thing is that if you were sitting in, I don't know, L.A., and you're sitting there thinking, okay, well, we're going to try and get together a convention. Let's pick Cleveland. You're going to get people from your business from all over say your business is all over the country. You're going to get people that are really going to go, yeah, let's go to Cleveland. There's fun things to do there. Like what?
Yeah, well, there isn't a whole lot to do, but you think, something like the stadium, for instance, if it would have had a retractable roof, there's a shot to have a Super Bowl eventually.
Now, see,
to bring people downtown and show off the city a little bit.
There must be somebody out there that knows more about this than you and I that would tell us why there was a good reason why there was no roof put on that stadium.
Well, I can't figure it, especially with, it's not like we're in Arizona and we have great weather all year round and it's 80 degrees outside. There's snow on the ground right now.
Well, I mean, do they look at it like, this is Cleveland, and we're rough and tumble, and we're like Green Bay or something, and, we're not going to have a roof on our stadium. We're going to play football in the snow like God intended it.
Well,
I mean, that's one thing. You could always open the roof to play the football game and then close it up again.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't understand. Or was it just too much money? I mean, did we just sit around and say, Cleveland just doesn't warrant spending that kind of money on a stadium? We just couldn't.
Well, again, how much did they spend on it to begin with? If you're going to spend, however much we did to begin with, you might as well put a few million more into it to get a roof over it.
Well, it's a good question. I don't know the answer.
The other question I had, maybe you can answer. I don't know that anybody really has answered. What if the city's budget was balanced? What does that mean? What do we get?
Oh, what do we get out of it?
Yeah, what do we get out of it? I mean, are we going to be able to build more things? Or it seems to me, I understand there wouldn't be layoffs.
Well, that would be a good start right there if we didn't have to lay off safety forces.
Okay, but if you take away the layoffs, what do we get with a balanced budget?
I'm curious as well as to if we lay off all these safety forces, does that take care of the $61 million?
It's not going to take that definitely. Well, it'll take care of part of it.
Oh, sure, it'll take care of part of it. But everything is risk versus reward. And if I look around in my neighborhood and I see 211 and 212. I see like 2 cop cars, and I'm thinking, well, I'd like to see 4 cop cars, not 1.
I'd like to see that too. But if the budget was balanced, would you see those 4 cop cars instead of 1 or 2?
Or if the budget was balanced, wouldn't they just waste the money and put us back in debt again?
Exactly. I mean, no one ever tells us what we're going to get if the budget is balanced. And I would like to know what we would get. I mean, we're functioning in life as it is now. Yes, we're facing layoffs, not only in the police and fire, but, other departments as well. But if you take those away and the budget is balanced, what are we going to get?
We'll get our garbage cans back. We'll have garbage cans downtown again.
Gold-rimmed garbage cans, or
yeah, we'll get those garbage cans out there so that we don't have people just throwing their litter on the ground. A bunch of sticky-fingered little pigs out there just throwing their food wrappers on the ground and making. I thought about that, and I thought, is that a big cut to get rid of the garbage cans? I mean, is that gonna save like $10 million, or is that gonna save like $1 million? I mean, if the downtown's just going to be a pigsty, well, couldn't we cut, like I said earlier, couldn't we cut some of these council members from 21 down to, say, 7?
I agree 100% with that.
I mean, you look at Cleveland. Cleveland is not that big, right? You look at downtown, you can see from one end of downtown to the other. Well, I don't know. We got problems, and we'll try and fix them. We got to review the city charter. I can't do it alone either. Need your help. We're going to need like 1,000 people to get a petition on the ballot to try and get rid of some of these council people. There's dead wood, dead weight. I'm Rick Gilmour, the thinking man's friend and the sharpest mind in Cleveland radio. More of the phone calls, more of the program after these important words and coverage of what in the world's happening on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100.
The following material may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Put anything you want in your pipe and smoke it. Put cheesy poofs in your pipe if you want.
You want some cheesy poofs, too?
Yeah, I want cheesy poofs.
578-1100 in the classic 216 area code. Toll free 888-723 WTAM. Little of this, little of that. A rich and varied program this Sunday night.
The Rick Gilmour Show on News Radio WTAM 1100.
Well, we talked a little about Cleveland politics and how we're gonna fix this problem. Looks like it's probably inevitable. The layoffs of the firefighters and the police and the EMS. And, well, that kind of stinks. And it doesn't matter what time of year that happens. It's especially bad this time of year. It's around the holidays. It's all wrapped up in court. Talked about fast food. Talked about cars. Little of this. Here's an email that came to me. WTAM.com. This is so true about the price of a slice of cheese. I said, when you go to a fast food joint, they want $3.08 for a sandwich and $3.48 with a slice of cheese. That seems a little rich, don't you think? Even goofier is that Americans are so dumb that they'll pay $2 for a bottle of water. Or why would you pay $3.50 for a cup of coffee from a Starbucks when you can go to the corner coffee shop and get a bottomless cup of 30-weight mud for 75 cents? Duh. Why stop here? Americans are so dumb, they'll go to war, and 60 years later, their former enemy is selling them cars and steel and destroying the domestic and the auto and steel industries. I talked about cars, what I thought were the best years for cars. I said 68, 69. We'll have to throw in 70 there, too. The absolute best years for cars was late 69, 70. Chevy had the LS6 454 Chevelle, perhaps the killer car of all time. Chrysler had the beautiful 70 Cuda, powered by a 426 Hemi. Ford had the Boss 429 Mustang. You're right. We favor the cars that turned us on as a kid. I grew up in the 70s, and the new cars were denutted, pollution-controlled slugs, thanks to the government. But courtesy of the contrived gas crisis, big-inch muscle cars were dirt cheap secondhand. I bought a 7440 Charger Dodge for a winter beater in 1974 for $800. What's interesting now is that in 1988, I bought a Mustang 5-liter 5-speed for an investment, and now it has less than 5,000 miles on it, and when the kids who grew up in the 80s see it, they go crazy. They tore up those Mustangs like we tore up 57 Chevys. These are the next big collectibles. Well, thank God something's collectible, because after about 1972, everything kind of ended up in the toilet, didn't it? I mean, does anybody collect a 75 anything? I mean, unless you got a real nice, Caprice convertible or something like that. Talked about breastfeeding. Our cyber vote at WTAM.com. Do you think it's okay for women to breastfeed in public? And, 67% of you say, yeah, it's okay. And I mentioned, I don't know, somebody emailed me, Gilly, maybe you don't realize this, but you should eat in the dining room and defecate in the restroom. No, really? No, I guess I didn't know that. So women should feed their babies in the dining room and change diapers in the restroom. Women should maybe feed their babies when they're out in a restaurant. Can't they bottle feed? I don't know. I mean, it's not a big issue to me. Like I said, I guess it depends on, I guess if you had a beautiful woman in a restaurant, would you mind if she flashed you? Maybe it's just the idea of a baby suckling away on the nipple or something that you're just like, well, that kind of takes all the titillation out of it, doesn't it? Now it's just some lady breastfeeding her baby. It's not like some hottie showing off her boobs. Frank, you're on the air.
Yeah, Rick.
Yes.
Hey, how you going?
Right.
Hey, who hired all these police officers they want to lay off? Was it Mayor Michael White that hired all these police officers?
Well, I think that a lot of people are shooting the messenger when they're going after Ladybug Jane Campbell, because I think she inherited a lot of these problems. And I don't know, don't they hire police officers on a regular basis? Don't they have?
A lot of them seem like, I don't know whose side I'm on, but a lot of them, it seems like they've been only working for 2 to 3 years. And if Mayor White hired them all, and Jane White's got to get, or Jane Campbell's got to get rid of him, it's not her fault that he went over the budget. It's his fault. No one's blaming him yet.
Well, I am, because I've said here more than a couple of times that I think she inherited a lot of the problems that she has. And not that she's the perfect mayor, but, a lot of people are just beating her up for something that she comes in and maybe she thought she'd be able to fix the problem and got in over her head. I don't think she's the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I don't blame her for everything.
Okay, that's all I want to make sure that someone knows out there that Mayor White hired these people.
I don't know as if he hired all of them, but I'm certain he hired a lot of them.
I understand. And how about Parma then? Is Parma going to come out of this situation they're in?
Boy, I don't know. We'll find out what new mayor-elect Dean DePiro does over there. But they've got their share of problems. Just look at their council. I mean, nobody can get along with anybody.
Well, when's it going to change?
Probably never. When has it ever changed? Liz, you're on the air.
Hi, how you doing?
Great.
Yeah, a couple of things. The cars, I kind of guessed that before you did the years of 68, 69. I graduated in 69, so I was always kind of thinking about the Mustangs. I was always thinking, too, 65, 66 is a good year. The Mustangs were out. And then 72 with Pontiac Ventura. That's a good car.
Yeah, it was a decent car, but I think by 72 everything had been emasculated and eviscerated to the point that they all had low compression. The only advantage to that would be that you can, put any kind of gas you want into it and it won't ping.
Yeah.
But, as far as performance goes, they kind of cut their throat.
Oh, well, I mean, I have the 72 Ventura, so I know.
Oh, you still do?
Oh, yeah.
And what motor's in it?
A 350.
Oh, so that goes pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
For those who don't know, it's like a Chevy Nova.
Uh-huh. Right.
Yeah. You ever seen that movie, The 7-Ups?
Yeah.
That was a Ventura that Roy Scheider put underneath a semi-truck, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite movies. The 7-Ups and Bullet and the original Gone in 60 Seconds had a great car chase scene in it, even though the rest of the movie was pretty much garbage.
Right. My other thing that I wanted to bring up was about Dennis Kucinich. Did you see that about him trying to meet a wife?
Yeah, well, I saw, he was trying to put out feelers there. To see
How ridiculous.
Well, that is pretty ridiculous, and I think that Dennis in general is kind of ridiculous,
yes,
and I think he does ridiculous things to try and get publicity,
right.
And I don't think he's got a snowball's chance in hell of being elected president or even vice president.
Yeah, I don't think he'll do anything. I mean,
where is he?
Yeah.
Why do we have this stuff going on in the 10th District in the city of Cleveland and these layoffs, and Dennis is off gallivanting around in New Hampshire?
Yeah. And another thing, too, years ago, as a matter of fact, I was diagnosed with a catastrophic illness, but I'm a survivor now, and, I had medical problems at a facility here in Cleveland. I called Dennis's office, and he never helped me at all. And I just, look what he did to Cleveland years back, and as a mayor, it's just ridiculous. If people vote for him, they're about as on the same mentality with him.
Well, you know what it is? It's Betty Babushka with her pickled egg and her Rust Belt mentality, and she keeps putting the devil for the same nice boys from the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got to stop thinking that way. You got to start thinking that we've got problems, and the same old. Let's put it this way. If you vote for Dennis Kucinich or you vote for Bob Taft or George Voinovich, you're not going to see anything new out of these people, are you? If they had some new ideas, they would have come up with them 2 terms ago.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, so, as far as I'm concerned, we know exactly what we're going to get out of these people, and look where we're at.
Right.
And where we're at is not good.
Right.
So, go out there and vote for somebody new.
Okay, you do a good show.
All right, thank you. Yeah, you keep voting for the same people, and then we wonder why we still got the same problems. No, really? You get the same people, you're going to get the same thing over and over. You vote for Bob Taft again, we're going to have the same thing over and over. Why can't we get a good governor? Isn't there another Jim Rhodes out there? Isn't there somebody good that can come along and do some good for the state of Ohio? Isn't there somebody that would come along and say, you know what? Maybe casino gambling's not a bad idea. Now, I know the people that argue against it say, well, once the casino's built, then it's a bunch of $6 an hour jobs. And I repeat the story of Wheeling, West Virginia. They were going to buy the entire downtown to make it a casino. Because the developer said, we will always, always, always make the money back on gambling. Always, always, always make the money back on gambling. No, that's a bad idea, right? No, you can take your money, you can go to Indiana, or you can go to West Virginia, or you can go to Detroit, or you can take it out of the country, you can take it to Windsor, or you can go to Atlantic City, or, you can go to Vegas. How many people do you know every year say that I know people that every year go to Vegas. Once a year. Every year. I knew a guy who told me a story about they chartered a plane to go to Vegas to see Sinatra. He says, Gilly, we flew out there and we spent so much money gambling and lost so much money gambling He says, we could have bought the plane. That's how much money 150 people on this junket that was go see Frank dropped gambling. And these are some high roller types. But was their money spent here? No. Their money was just taken out of state, and away it goes, and never to be seen again. No, I guess, casino gambling. Oh, yeah, that's a bad idea. Well, it's an idea. Bo, you're on the air.
How are you, Rick?
Good, you?
Okay. Hey, I just wondered, they wanted to build a convention center and slap another slap-happy tax on us, but there's a gentleman named Bart Wolfstein who wants to build it without any taxpayers' money. Why not let him do the gambling? Because evidently he thinks he can make some money because it's his money, and I would think he would do it in a way that he would make money.
Well, one would think that if you're investing your own money, you would have sat back and considered that you're not just going to blow it.
Right, because Pittsburgh and Indianapolis, they do a brisk, mid-sized convention-type business, and that's right halfway in between the two. And I don't see, Pittsburgh has nothing over us, and neither does Indianapolis. So let Mr. Wolfstein put up the convention center.
I like when people argue about, I said, what was wrong with the idea of using the IX Center for a convention center? And they say, well, that's going to get torn down. Do you realize, have you ever been in the IX Center basement?
Yes.
Then they have all those meeting rooms down there.
Mm-hmm.
They're still building in the IX Center because it's going to be around for about another 20 years before it would go bye-bye.
Right.
So they're still building brand new rooms and putting money in, and people think, oh, yeah, we hear, people in Cleveland, you hear one thing on the news and you run with it forever.
Well, we could have a double whammy. We could have two different things going on. But anyway, another point on the budgets. The Citizens Against Government Waste put out a book, and they put one out every year about waste that goes on. And throughout the 90s, cities, municipalities, counties, states, and our federal government all doubled their expenditures and budgets and salaries and everything else during that time frame. And I would venture to say Cleveland was giving everybody a 5 to 10% raise as across the board throughout the 90s and all the way up until today. So why can't they just all take a 10% pay cut and be happy, and we'd have a balanced budget?
Well,
is that too tough?
Why do we have to have 21 council wards?
Well, there you go. But, if they all took a 10% pay cut, too, that you're solving the problem immediately without going through that charter business. We're looking at a 10% across-the-board cut.
Well, you got to remember.
A real cut, not a political cut, whereas a 10% expenditure increase and 8% expenditure increase. Not one of those.
Let's do the math.
Yeah.
You're talking about just council people taking a pay cut?
No, I'm talking the entire city government, anyone working for the city.
Cops, firefighters, everybody.
Because they've been getting raises 4 and 5% a year for the last 12 years, for God's sakes. That's still an increase of where they were.
Let me tell you a little story. Back in about 1932, 33, right in the heart of the Depression, my grandfather was credit manager for what is now Lane Bryant.
Right.
It was Stern's company back then. And credit manager was a pretty good job for a company like that. And they called him in and they said, you make $250 a month. You're going to make $125 a month, or you're going to not have a job.
Or you're going to have zero.
And he said, I guess I'll take it.
And not only that, I just wanted to, because I'm in real estate, and because of the down-spiraling economy and because of interest rates and everything, my business has taken a hit where I've taken a 20 to 30% pay cut over the last 3 years straight.
Well, you don't have a choice, right?
Gee, almighty, the arrogance of the people in government, they don't have a right to that job. It's a privilege to work for us, we the people, the citizenry that pay their damn salary.
Well, that's interesting because, like I say, I think if you went to any I would assume now, I'm just speaking out loud for somebody that isn't on the phone line, but if you went to a cop or a firefighter and you said, how about taking a 10% cut instead of getting laid off, I think they'd say absolutely.
Yes, they would. And that's the whole point. Common sense seems to avoid these people because of the elitist attitude in their minds that they believe that they can't go backwards because of the fact that they never take into account that there are ups and downs in the economy. It's always going to go up 5 and 10% for themselves in their pocketbook. And this is just like the blatant arrogance of these people. These people need to be booted out. And I don't think you should be able to work for a city or a municipality for more than 10 years. I think you have to be out after that. That's it. You work 10 years, just like term limits.
Well, now, wait a minute. What about, you talking about cops and firemen, too?
No, I would exclude those. I'd exclude that. I'm talking about bureaucrats within the city.
Okay. All right.
All right?
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, because I guess I should put it this way. Because I'm not going to sit here and say that I think that firefighters or police officers are overpaid, because I do not. I do not think they're overpaid. But I think that as a whole, if there could be a solution to sit down with the union and say, well, we're not going to lay off any firefighters, and we're not going to lay off any EMS, and we're not going to lay off any cops, but every one of them's got to take a pay cut. Every one of them. But that would save the jobs. I would think that a lot of brother officers would say, I'm not going to be real happy about this, but if it keeps the number of people on the street, you know what I mean? It keeps the same number of cops on the street that you need to maintain a certain level of sanity in this crazy world that we live in, that maybe they'd all agree to it. I don't know. If you're a cop or a firefighter or an EMS worker, by all means, open up 578-1111 in the 216 area code. I'd love to hear from you. If you thought it would save all those jobs, would you sacrifice 10% to help your brother officers? Is this Sister Marie?
Yes.
You're on the air.
Oh, thank you.
Go right ahead, please.
Yes. Rick, I sent you an email the other day. Do you remember getting it?
I get hundreds of them. What was it about?
It was about trying to change the Cleveland reality and image around. And it was actually concerning the firemen and policemen, but it was bringing up the fact that on the radio this past week, most of the concern has been that we're going to be playing football on Monday night, and we might embarrass ourselves because we haven't been playing well. And Cleveland is going to be on national television. And then you hear also that the city has been illuminated and it's going to look beautiful on television. So the image that we're portraying, the physical image, should be reflected in what we actually do in the city. But really, our priorities in the wrong place if we fire people who have committed themselves, have really laid their life on the line every morning when they go to work. And now they're going to be fired right before Christmas. And I think that the people, they don't have to be Cleveland City residents, the people in greater Cleveland who make money, and especially the sports figures who make money from the city of Cleveland, could bail them out for the emergency and then try to figure out what should be done, like what you're just suggesting now. Get people to agree to a pay cut, or get wealthy people who would like to simply make a donation to the to get us out of this business, because the firemen and police are the last ones who should have to be told that they're not wanted.
You're absolutely right. I appreciate the phone call.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. See, I don't just hang up on sisters when they call. Other people, they get the boot. But triple Appler forecast from TV3 meteorologist Betsy Kling tonight. Low in the low 20s, currently 26 degrees in Cleveland, 26 degrees. Remember, we are your official winter weather station, and you got instant alert school closings and delays every 15 minutes at the top, bottom, 15 and 45 minutes on Wills and Coleman in the morning. Don't be a dum-dum. Don't be driving around all uninformed and not know what's going on. Maybe you're taking the kids to school and it's closed. Well, that would look pretty dumb, wouldn't it? Rick, you're on the air.
How you doing, Rick?
All right.
That's good. Well, I would actually take the 10% pay cut, because it's all about securing the city, not all about the money.
Are you a firefighter or a police officer?
I'm going to school for criminal justice.
Okay.
Right now, I probably make more money than most police officers. But I'm going to school for criminal justice because I agree with securing the city, and that's something that my dream has been, is to be a police officer. So I wouldn't even care about the money. It's all about securing the people.
Well, that's a noble thought. I can't speak for everyone out there that's a firefighter or an EMS worker or, a policeman, but a police officer. I would think that part of this has to do with the union.
Right.
And if they would just get together, couldn't they have all the brother officers sit down and say, you know what, we want to save these jobs, so we're willing, and tell the union, no, we're you know what I mean? Tell the union, no, we're going to take a pay cut.
Well, 10% of something is better than 0% of something.
Well, when my grandfather got his pay cut by 50%, I mean, it was better than not having a job.
That's correct.
And I would think that anybody out there, I mean, if it happens in regular business, I guess it happens in city business too.
Right.
I don't know why council couldn't all take a pay cut too.
I agree. They make way too much money.
They make $66,000 a year, and there's 21 of them.
Exactly.
And they have a staff.
I think most government officials make way too much money. They should take the pay cut. Also, if they're going to cut the police officers, they should take a cut in their pocketbook, too.
Well, it's just crazy when you look at, like people spend $20 million to be reelected president.
Sure.
$20 million? The job doesn't even pay $1 million. So why? Well, is this the ultimate ego trip?
Exactly.
20 million. Of course, it's not Bush's $20 million. Other people were dumb enough to give it to him, I guess.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's just, it's so screwed up. I mean, how can we sit here and look at big problems and come up with solutions, and yet they can't?
You got me. I know. I agree with you.
All right, Rick, thanks.
You have a good one.
All right, I already do. It's like I talk about, we're going to spend $87 billion to rebuild Iraq. Well, we tore it up to begin with. Whatever happened to finishing the job in Afghanistan? Is Osama bin Laden alive or dead? Well, geez, 8 foot tall and dragging a dialysis machine from cave to cave, you'd think we'd be able to find him. Well, finish one job before you start another. For God's sake. Jim, you're on the air. Hello? Jim?
Yo!
You're on the air.
Gilly.
Yes.
I'm just, I moved here on Cleveland on purpose, and everywhere I've lived, the same thing happens on talk radio. People moan and groan and foam about being where they're at.
Well,
and
I moved to Cleveland on purpose. I mean, I grew up in Cleveland, in the suburbs, but I moved into the city on purpose. So then I figured, well, that gives me a right to moan and groan.
I'm hearing you.
I don't want to see fewer cops in my neighborhood. I'd like to see a few more.
Right. But I just called to be positive. I've lived in Cincinnati, lived in Detroit, Boston and New York City, and I like it here. I have no problem with this. It's a lot cheaper living here than in Boston.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I've heard people tell me how much money it is to live in some place like San Francisco, and it was just crazy. You're talking about $3,000 a month for renting an apartment or something like that. I was like, what? Sheesh. That means after a year, you could have bought a starter home in Cleveland. Think about it. More of the phone calls, more of the program after these important words and coverage of what in the world's happening. I'm Rick Gilmour, the thinking man's friend and the sharpest mind in Cleveland radio, and this is Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100.
Cool. Right on News Radio WTAM 1100.
The problem is in your pants. That's what the lady said. What's this? Another list? I have all these lists in my audio log. Oh, no, don't even know what the hell. What is this one? To women everywhere from a man who's had enough. Well, that's the same as the other list. I'm occupying all this computer space. 2 lists. I'll just get rid of one of them. Talking about a little of this, a little of that, a little of everything. 578-1100 in the 216 area code. If you think you can get through, well, you're probably out of luck. Craig, you're on the air.
Hey, Mr. Gilmour, you have hit upon just about everything on my mind tonight.
Really?
Oh, muscle cars from the 60s? Are you kidding me? I had a 65 Impala big block convertible.
Nice.
Oh, remember Diney's on 117th Street?
I remember hearing of it.
Okay, well, that used to be the big muscle car spot. And then what you did was you put up or shut up, and you went over to Elmwood Avenue, and you had it out.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah, I can remember that real well. $5 from your buddies, and you had a half tank of gas, and that was a 23-gallon tank.
I had a 67 Impala Super Sport convertible.
Don't you love it?
And you know what was funny? I sold that car, and it was from Georgia. I sold it for $1,650. And I think it's worth more than that if it's just a parts car now.
I was just going to say, and how did you feel after that blow to the head?
Well, you know what it was. I mean, at the time, that's all the market would bear.
Right, exactly.
And I look back on it, and I'm thinking, geez, if I would have just stuck it in the garage, it probably would have been worth $5 or $6 grand just the way it sat.
No doubt. Plus, you would have had people get out of your way when you came down the street.
Oh, yeah, it was a nice car. I mean, I really enjoyed driving it, but it was one of those... I've owned an awful lot of cars, and I look back on them, and I don't know which one I would have kept. One of my favorites was I had a 66 Corvair with a Crown conversion kit with a 283 in the back seat.
Beautiful.
And that was a Florida car and 30,000-mile car, and I sold it to a buddy of mine for, I don't know, $2,000 or something. You look back on it. At the time, $2,000 seemed like a lot of money.
Sure.
But you look back on it, and it was, yeah.
I paid $3,800 for mine, and that was big bucks.
And you look back on it.
Going for $5,000.
Yeah, I mean, my Super Sport convertible restored, I think, is worth about $23,500.
Easily.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that I sold it for $1,650.
Oh, well, such is life in the big city. And speaking of that,
yes,
it's amazing that you brought up the fact that nobody has turned around and said, I'll stand up for my brother and I'll take a cut in order to keep his family fed.
That's what I was thinking.
That's what everybody had to do down at the mills when they turned around and said, look, this is what's happening. Either you shake down or you shake out.
Well, and I
haven't heard anything except, well, that's it. Here comes the list. Everybody's gone.
I wonder if maybe the police union and fire union and whatever, they're not agreeable to that.
Well, I guess not, because I have 3 Shields in the family, and they're all Mahoning County.
Okay.
And Youngstown, above any place else, is the one place where you vote often. Well, you vote early and vote often. That's the way it's supposed to go.
Right.
But when it comes down to it, that is one of the hardest hit areas for steel and whatnot, and an industry area that is like shut down. That is a depressed area. And when it comes down and it shakes down, these guys aren't walking up asking for 8% increases and whatnot. And when they see a cohort, shall we say, that they work with, who isn't doing their job, who is sloughing off, they talk to them about it. I mean, everybody's got to look internal before they do anything on this.
Yeah, it just made sense to me that I thought, and I don't know.
And we haven't heard one word about it. Bob Beck is sitting there going, well, the mayor of this and the mayor of that and the mayor of this, but I'm not hearing anything from the Brotherhood standing there going, we're going to cover our own.
Well, we'll find out tonight, won't we?
Well, I guess so, because, it's just like what Sister was talking about as far as Cleveland showing off. It was funny. I was at my shop the other day, and somebody said, hey, who are the Browns playing on Monday? And they said, the Winners. So it's like,
Well, as far as the city showing off with the lights, I've heard people complain about how can we afford to put up lights. Well, those lights are paid for.
How can we afford not to?
And
Make the kids, we don't need any more bad press.
And the lights are paid for by private people.
Not only that, but, I mean, you brought up Las Vegas. Clark County, which is what Las Vegas is in Nevada.
Right.
Basically supports the state. There is no property tax in Las Vegas. There is no inheritance tax in Las Vegas. There's no corporate tax. I'm a manufacturer here in the greater Cleveland area.
All right.
I am taxed on the materials I purchase in order to fabricate things that I'm going to sell. Then I am taxed on those things that I'm going to sell, and I am taxed on the inventory that I'm holding to make those things. So I'm triple taxed before I even hit the door.
Well, it's just as dumb as the idea of every time you buy a used car, you got to pay tax on it. Didn't it have tax paid on it once?
Right, exactly.
When it was brand new, you buy a new car, you pay taxes on it.
It's not really an incentive thing, but it's more of a lubricant to the economy. And face it, our economy here needs the biggest enema it can have.
Absolutely. Got to clean out Cleveland. Got a hot coffee enema. Put it right up Euclid Avenue. Clean out, shake up. Well, I don't know how that works. I'd love to hear from a police officer or a firefighter. That's why I opened up 578-1111. Would you be willing to take a pay cut and cut in your pay if you thought it would save jobs? Or is the union just so dead against that you can't argue with the union? Well, I would think if there's more of you than there are union members. Jim, you're on the air.
How you doing, Rick?
All right.
I got 3 words for you. Barbara Bird Bennett.
Yeah.
How much money is she making running this school, running the Cleveland Public Schools? Yet, how good are how good are they doing right now?
300,000 or 400,000.
Yes, I mean, take a break. You could first salary. You could keep a bunch of police officers still on the payroll.
Yeah, I've heard tell that most of the people that graduate, most of the people in Cleveland didn't graduate from high school. It seems,
exactly.
I mean, if the schools are falling apart, And we got all, it's that snowball thing, it's just one problem and another problem and another problem. And like I said, that's why I was thinking about it during the week and thinking, well, how much of this do we blame on Jane Campbell because we're shooting the messenger? Not that she's a great mayor. But how much do we?
Terrible mayor.
How much do we do? How much of this shooting the messenger do we do? You know what I mean? But blame her. It's her fault. Well, it's a lot of people's fault. How about all the council people that were in there under Boss White? I mean, they're probably all still. Most of them are all still there. We see these names in Cleveland, and it's the same names people keep pulling the lever for year after year, over and over and over, and then we wonder why we got these problems. Well, maybe these people aren't doing their job.
That's what happens in Cleveland.
Yeah, it's just God bless you if you're going to be a politician in Cleveland, because you'll have a lifetime position. You just keep getting voted back in. All think back on the old days. If you were named Corrigan or Celebrezzi, you were a shoo-in.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very depressing seeing the amount of wasted money we have going on to dead-end people.
Yep, and it's just it ain't getting any better. It's just the same thing over and over and over. Just a redux. Jim.
Yeah.
You're on the air.
It all comes back to money. When every time there's a contract issue, Cleveland's always the lowest paying, and all these people, like when the police contract, they were the lowest paid in the state, so they stood their ground, they got their money. Now they're going to suffer for it. Part of it comes back to me being out of work since March because I can't pay my Cleveland city taxes, so the city doesn't have any money, to pay for what it needs. I mean, it's all everything's connected, and these guys ain't going to take a pay cut.
Well, you mentioned that, and it's funny because I know that there are people out there that because you saw those 5 pages of people that didn't pay their property tax. I mean, it was page after page after page after page, and I'm thinking, well, one way out might be to try and refinance your house. I mean, I know people that have refinanced their house where it did not even cost them any money out of pocket. Now, obviously, it's going to cost money on the end of the loan, right, but it lowered their interest rate and it got their property taxes paid.
Yeah.
So there's a way to try and creatively finance there. Like I say, it might cost you a couple of grand down the road, but down the road is what I mean? Right now, it's
worth it.
Yeah, if you have a rainy day fund of some sort, well, and it's raining, well, then it's time to use it.
Oh, it's the same thing as all these, no matter what agency it is, all these government employees, whether they're city, state, whatever, they all get 30 years and out, most of them, too. I got to work till I'm 67 before I get Social Security. These guys get a job at 21, and they're retired at 51.
How old are you now? How old are you? How old are you?
Issue too on us.
How old are you?
39.
Well, guess what? There ain't going to be no Social Security when you're 67.
Right, and I mean these guys got their retirement, and they make. It's not a great living, but at least it's a regular living. And
plan on working until you're 87.
Well, yeah, I guess I'll have to.
I mean, the way it looks, I mean, and there's a lot of people out there that just are like retire. Retire? What's that? They'll work until they're dead.
Right. Well, I'll never see it, but I mean, not singling out cops and firemen because I mean,
right.
All these, and I mean, you are paying the bill for it, so.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of employees that are like consultants. What does a consultant do? Consult this.
He makes a good living. He's got excellent benefits and excellent retirement.
Well, that's right. And then people scratch their head and they go, I don't know exactly what Bob does, but he's a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how many consultants there are to the city of Cleveland? Somebody told me, they started looking around and poking around, and they said, how many people work for the city of Cleveland that you don't know what they do?
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. I mean, you just the deeper you look, the more depressed you get on it.
I mean, couldn't we just, for example, there has to be some other city in the U.S. You want a consultant? Get one consultant from some other city in the U.S. that was in the same sort of trouble that we're in now that fixed it. There has to be a city in the U.S. that was in debt and had problems like Cleveland, and they fixed it. And find out, how do you fix it?
Well, they should have done that months ago, not when it's too late.
Well, that's right. They should have been doing it all along. If somebody were doing their job, Right? If somebody were doing it, what do we know?
Funny guy.
Yeah, we're just dummies, you know that? We don't know nothing, right?
We got to pay the taxes, so.
Yeah, you're right, Jim. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Well, here we go. Jim.
Good evening, Gilly. How you doing?
Good. You're a firefighter?
Good, yes. You asked the question before, union firefighter be willing to take a pay cut in order to save the job. Well, I think the question that needs to be asked before you even ask that is, will the city, and you kind of already hit on it with the previous caller, will the city be willing to trim some of the fat and some of the garbage that they're paying out, as far as I'm concerned, out-and-out scams that are going on with all these consultants, with all these giveaway programs, everything else. This should have never got to this point. Should have never got to the point where you have your number one line of defense, your policemen and your firemen, on the chopping block because of wages that they want to take away from us in order to erase their $62 million deficit that started back, the previous administration. Let's go all the way back to good old Mike White, and now Jane Campbell, and we're the ones that are going to pay for it.
Well, you make an excellent point. If there's a bunch of deadwood out there, why don't they get rid of that instead of getting rid of safety forces?
There's tons of deadwood out there. There's tons of deadwood out there, and you and I know it both. And again, you hit on your previous caller, Nat, and it just blows my mind that the people of the city, or any city actually, that gets into this type of bind and this type of situation, don't realize this and start standing up and speaking out against it and say, hey, you know what, we're tired of the scams, we're tired of poor government, more importantly, we're tired of worthless politicians, that's all they want to do is play politics. And you're seeing a classic example of it right now. 90% of this is about politics that Jane Campbell wants to play with our contracts coming up, and 90% of it is the crap that goes on with the scams back and forth between politicians and city workers. And again, the cops and the firemen, man, what's the number one hot button you can push when you start threatening people with services or taxes and anything else? And that they're going to say, well, we got to cut your police and fire protection. And that's the number one thing that people want.
Yeah, let's put it this way. If my house is on fire, I'm not calling Joe Simperman.
Exactly.
I'm calling the fire department.
And the thing about it, Gilly, is that, we won't strike either. I mean, even if we had didn't have a no-strike clause or whatever it is that's in there, you know what? There's not a fireman out there, or a cop for that matter, that would turn down a citizen in need. It just doesn't happen. You see guys off duty, going in and helping out on things that are going on, guys stopping at fires that are off duty in their own personal cars. You see police officers getting involved in situations where they're off duty trying to be with their family, and somebody's got, something bad going down, and a cop happens to be there that's off duty, and what does he do? He sticks his life right on the line. And this is the way that they thank us, by turning around and using us as political pawns in their game, that because they can't play it right and they don't know what they're doing and they want to go and spend. I mean, it's been well documented in the papers lately what kind of fat right in the mayor's office. Husband using a car to go to Youngstown, on and on. Stop and take a look in your own office there, Jane, before you start worrying about what the other city departments are doing.
No, in the big... Okay, thanks. In the big scheme of things, the car was not a lot of money, right? But yeah, when you're talking about laying off cops and firefighters, and then, now there's where I'll blame the mayor. How dumb are you? See, it would be one thing if Mr. Mayor had to have a car for his wife, so she wouldn't get raped and kidnapped or God knows what, threatened, because she has to have a reliable car because he's a politician. But Mrs. Mayor doesn't need to get an Explorer for her husband. I didn't even know, he doesn't even have the same name as her, does he? His name's Hilliard or something like that? Who'd even know who he is? Yeah, nobody even knew until... But if you got problems, don't have glaring examples of things sitting around in your own house, right? You can at least get rid of that. You get your best Browns coverage here on the big one. You can hear the Fifth Third Bank pregame show brought to you by Mitsubishi Motors with Kevin Keene and Brian Brennan. Live from Gridiron Grill, Monday night, tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Browns and Rams will be simulblast on Cleveland's rock station, 100.7 WMMS. And us, your AM home of the Browns, News Radio, WTAM 1100. I was reading this, and it says, Kevin Keene and Brian. Brian. I assume that's Brian Brennan, right? Maybe there's Kevin Keenan and two Bryans. No, I doubt it. Anyway, just a misprint. Triple level forecast from TV3 meteorologist Betsy King tonight. Cloudy low in the low 20s, currently 24 degrees in Cleveland. Tomorrow, better day, 40 degrees. Then tomorrow night, temps in the 30s. So if you're heading down there, bundle up and all that sort of thing. Well. Chuck, you're on the air.
Yes, how you doing? It's a great show tonight.
Thanks.
You hit a lot of topics. I was going to tell you about 65, 66 cars. Yeah, I don't know, you're probably younger than I am, but if you have to look at them, you look at some of the old Novas, they used to make sleepers that actually looked like an old man's car, but it had a 327 with a 350 horse in it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, there were cars out there. In fact, some of those were my favorites, where you'd see something like, I knew a guy that had a 68 Chevy, and it was a two-door post sedan, it was a cheapo Biscayne.
Right.
With
but it had a rat motor in it.
Yeah, 427 in it, and 4-speed, and, you see these things with the little pie plate hubcaps and black wall tires, and, it looks
very much so. But also you were talking a little bit of politics as far as that, and what's funny is how did she find all these extra jobs in different parts of the city as far as the water department, the electrical, as far as puny muni? And what I'm getting at is, I don't know if anybody's familiar, and I work construction, and construction is down in this area, and you know that.
Yep.
And if you look at puny muni, all it is a transfer station on CEI's wires.
Yep.
And it all comes from Canada. So what I'm getting at is, because I live in a county, all right? And I'm upset about this because every time the city of Cleveland needs money, they come to the county. And if you look at the county, it's all sin tax money. And all of a sudden, we've got new stadiums, and like what a lot of people have talked on, how many times a year do we use it? Now we have people that are patrolmen that actually put their lives on a line every day, and they've got all these fat politicians running around trying to figure out how they can keep their power grids and their little knit people in place so they can get reelected the following year.
Well, it's like Jim the firefighter said earlier there. He said, what a hot-button topic, Start talking about laying off cops and firefighters and EMS, and all of a sudden you get everybody up in an uproar.
Well, it's true. I mean, what's so funny about it is, and I'm not saying that it isn't part of the problem, but you look at LTV and I'll say American Can. American Can walked out of here with 800 jobs. LTV across the state probably lost 45,000 jobs. Did anybody complain about them when they said, well, we're not going to take a pay cut. We're losing our job. We're losing our pensions. I had a brother-in-law completely lose everything. And then the only thing they came up with was when the government came in and took over the LTV pension, they went to the VA hospital.
That's it.
And I feel sorry for a lot of people, but I think they ought to take a good look at reality here, because, like you say, the economy goes up and down, and I'll give you a good example, and the firefighter said it. They negotiated for money for their contracts, and they are the people that put their lives on a line every day. Those people deserve that money, but if you find somebody sitting somewhere like a consultant and you can't find out what he's doing, I suggest that guy leaves.
Well, look on the front of the white pages in the blue section where it lists all the different phone numbers for calling the city of Cleveland.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that one. I was during the week, and I'm looking at it, and I'm going, what? The Department of what?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
for sure.
All these people, it's not just one person that answers that phone.
No.
There's a whole office full of people there. Well, a lot of
I think you got to try calling those phones, because now you don't even get anybody. But I'll give you a good example. I work in construction. Nixon took money away from us back then. You want to know something? We never got the money back.
No, the money never comes back. Thanks for checking in, Tiger. No, it's just like when there's more laws and more taxes and more, but when they take away money never comes back, does it? More of the phone calls, more of the program. I'm Rick Gilmour, the thinking man's friend and the sharpest mind in Cleveland radio. And this is Cleveland's only news radio station, WTAM 1100.
The following material may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the third, final, and dreaded hour. 578-1100 in the classic 216 area code. Open phones, little of this, little of that, politics, cars, you name it, layoffs. Don't forget at 10 o'clock, Drudge Report, live here on Cleveland's only news radio. Right, big voice man, who am I and who are we?
The Rick Gilmour Show on News Radio WTAM 1100.
I talked about the impending police layoffs, fire layoffs, CMS layoffs. Maybe the city of Cleveland's got too many people working for it. Not in firefighting or fighting crime, just deadwood. Look in the front of your white pages, and here's something for fun if you can get through at 578-1100 or 578-1111. Who is, I don't have anything to give you, just the adulation of your host. Who is Vinko Bogataj? And when you hear it, you'll go, oh yeah, that's Vinko Bogataj. Now, if you know, call up and tell me, and you'll feel just so good about yourself that you'll feel so smart. Toll free 888-723-WTAM. Joe, you're on the air.
Hey, good evening, sir. How are you doing?
Good. Are you in Alaska?
Yeah, still up here.
Yeah.
I'll be heading back in about another 10 days or so, but we're getting ready for winter up here. You know, I hear the troubles that are plaguing the city of Cleveland right now, and I just can't help but understand what is the true prohibited problems that prohibit the city from going ahead and entering into a gambling contract. You know, I look at what it's done for cities like Detroit and what it's done for Windsor and many of the small little communities out in the flat plains of America, and I cannot help but think that Cleveland, you know, you'd be bringing people in to, you know, you got places like May Company and Higbee's, not Halley's, but Higbee's, that apparently they're trying to put some condos in there. Wouldn't that be a wonderful place to have a couple of casinos going in right there? I mean, those are beautiful buildings. They would really be structured really well with the main bottom floor for that. And that would be right along the line of the hotel structure downtown. I mean, can't people see it through their, minds that gambling really could be the answer?
Well, that's what I thought. What do we know? We're just a bunch of dum-dums, apparently, and we're not politicians. Apparently, if you get elected to something, that makes you smarter than the average bear.
Unfortunately, we're looking at not only the Cleveland Police Department and now the firemen, we're also looking at other cutbacks. I see that Deaconess Hospital has closed recently.
Yep.
And St. Michael's Hospital is back at it again. You know, there were, for the last 3 years, St. Michael's Hospital was averaging anywhere between 75 and 110 people a day there at that hospital. And to go ahead and shut them down now because the new director at University Hospital has a whim that he wants to spend the money some other way is preposterous. They just put in over $10 million into that hospital. That hospital is a quality facility right now. In fact, it just got its certification and it passed with, I believe, either 94 or 96%, which is higher than most other hospitals around. And now they're going to shut it down. What sense does something like this make?
Not a lot. You often wonder when you start hearing about these things, you're like, well, I just wish I could be a fly on the wall and find out what kind of backroom dealings are going on here.
But backroom dealings are affecting the public trust. The public trust of the citizens that live in these neighborhoods. You're going to continue to have continued blight. I mean, is there a vested interest, do you think, in Cleveland going downhill further? I think I have to ask that question because it's starting to be fairly suspicious here.
Oh, you mean you wonder what somebody got to gain by us going into the toilet?
Well, I wonder.
Well, I think about it, too, and I think, if they want to hit a hot-button topic talking about laying off cops and firefighters and EMS, well, if they found it, because I live in the city of Cleveland, proper, and, boy, that's the one thing that makes you think, well, that's, one of the reasons why, people don't move in, is because they'll just say, oh, it's going to be unsafe.
Let your listeners know that the middle of December, I think it's December 19th, is the deadline for St. Michael's Hospital, and we're going to have another major hospital is going to close in this downtown area if something isn't done by that date. Please have your people call your politicians to ask for an answer.
All right. Thank you.
Good day.
You too. Yeah, have a good day. Yeah. It just looks brighter and brighter, doesn't it? Now I wonder why people move away. On a lighter note, we were also talking about cars. What do you think the best year for cars was? It came down to 68, 69, 70, somewhere in there. That's not written in stone, right, Jake?
Yeah, I think what moves me to the earlier 60s, like maybe 63, 4, 5, is the cars were a little bit smaller. and you don't see them as much. The Chevy 2s, the old little Novas, not the god-awful 70s big giant behemoth Novas, but in the on the Ford side, the Comets, the Falcons.
What about a 64 Comet Caliente?
Let's not talk about that anymore. But, no, like a 63 two-door hardtop. And isn't it amazing that nobody knows what a hardtop means, aside from the convertible thing? Is it a hardtop? Yeah, okay, buddy, I'll be down to buy it. And then you freaking drive 200 miles and the moron got posts in there. And then you got to give them a big lesson. You're like, here, look, I'll wind all of your front and your rear window down, and look, I can't pass my hand from the front to the back because there's posts there.
That post indicates it's a sedan.
Oh my gosh, I want to kill people.
I sold a car to a guy who came all the way from Pennsylvania to get it, and he thanked me. He said, "Thank you so much for describing the car to me as it actually was. You told me about the rust on it. You told me about the tear in the seats. You told me about it doesn't run right." He says, "So many cars you go and look at, and he says people just complete fabrications."
Well, and we've both done this. You've went and looked at a million cars in your lifetime, excuse me.
Yep.
But, and I guess you pull up and it's, the trailer and the redwood deck and the big fat wife. When the guy said the car ain't that bad, he meant it. He wasn't trying to, trick you or anything. He really meant it wasn't that bad. Now, you think it's a piece of crap. However, when you look at his standards, he really wasn't lying.
Yeah, for him, maybe it was an all right car. Yeah, it's like nice shirt. I wouldn't wear it, but it looks good on you.
Did you get a bowl of soup with that?
Yeah, a free bowl of soup, a free bowl of clam chowder, and a pair of checkered shorts.
Now, the 68 to 69 year thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Camaros, the Chevelles, even the Dodge products, are they basically the same 68, 69?
Well, I would say for the most part, yeah. I mean, if you looked at like a 68 Dodge Dart, looks pretty much the same as a 69 Dodge Dart, that kind of thing.
Okay. And I would have to vote for 69 only because of the Mustang. When they went, and not to have anything against the 67 or 68 Mustang, but the 69 and the 70 are just, are it. That's it. You're done. Stop making them after that. And basically they did, but... it's fun to talk about this. I really long for the days. I hear the liberals and the left talk. Well, this didn't happen when Clinton was in office, and I sit back and I think, you know what? Talk radio was just much more hilarious when Clinton was in office, because now we actually have to talk about, Cleveland going downhill, the mayor of Pittsburgh calling the people in the suburbs racists. Hello, let's see. They're the people with all the money. You want to join with them? Well, you know what? It's the first step to bond with them. Call them all racist.
There you go.
Tom, way to go.
There you go.
You jackass. But anyways, I'm going to get going here along my appointed rounds, and Stacy's mom's got it going on.
Stacy's mom?
Yeah, she's got it going on.
Who's Stacy?
Oh, Rick, I'll talk to you later.
Okay. I see somebody here. You know who Vinko Bogataj is, Tony?
Yes, I do.
And this gentleman is?
The ski jumper on ABC Wireless Sports that falls off the ski jump.
Yep. He's the one who's the agony of defeat in the introduction of ABC's Wide World of Sports.
Absolutely right. And the actual pronunciation of his name is Vinko Bogataj.
Oh, Bogataj. It had a J on the end there, but I was uncertain.
Yeah, he's one of the great Slovenian ski jumpers of his time.
He's Yugoslavian, according to this.
Well, he's Slovenian. Yeah, that's Yugoslavia before it, before it broke up into its proper nations.
Okay, Smarty Pants. How about another question?
Sure.
Who are Jim Bagby Jr. and Al Smith?
Weren't they in the Summer Olympics of 60-something? They did the black athlete salute?
No. Okay. All right. Not even close. Now, that's an easy one. Anybody that knows a little about the city of Cleveland would know who Jim Bagby Jr. and Al Smith are. 578-1100 or 578-1111 in the classic 216 area code. Sarah, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hi.
Question.
Okay.
If they fire, first place, I work retail and I was talking to a fire person, a police person rather, and they said they're willing to give back. Now, they're the only ones in the city they're willing to give back. And if they fire police and firemen, those that are left are going to put in so much overtime that they're going to lose more than they're saving.
Ah, hadn't thought of that.
Well, think about it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You got a lot of people walking around in City Hall that don't know what the hell they're doing.
Apparently.
Yeah. I mean, they stand there. Get rid of the dead wood.
You know, it's funny because I've walked around in City Hall and looked around at some of those offices. And it's like the office on, I don't know, aging management or something. It's like, what? What do you do? I don't know what they do. I guess they go to work every day and they sit there and push paper around on their desk and collect a nice paycheck, and they must do something. I mean, I haven't heard anybody call...
They're a body there.
Yeah, but I haven't heard any of them call to defend themselves.
No, they're a body there. They're not doing anything.
Well, we need to get rid of those people.
Well, but they've been there so long. How can you fire them?
Well, it doesn't matter.
Well, that's their attitude.
You know how talk radio works. I could be here for 10 years or 10 minutes.
Well,
you know, it doesn't matter whether you've been here for 10 years. They'll pat you on the back and tell you they love you, and then you go on the air and you do something naughty, and they tell you you're fired.
That's private industry.
Well, that's the way the city ought to be run.
Government doesn't run like private industry.
Well, but it's a business.
But they don't run it like a business.
But it is a business. I mean, even the government of the United States is a business.
Yeah.
And it needs to be run as such. That was the reason why I voted for Ross Perot many moons ago, because I thought, well, if nothing else, he's rich. He knows how to run his own money. Maybe he knows how to run the country's money.
Well,
but of course, he was a little testy, a little feisty to be president.
Well, whatever. But if by firing the police and firemen, it'll cost them a lot more money with overtime.
All right, Sarah. Duly noted. Craig, you're on the air.
Hey, Rick, how you been? It's been a while.
All right, how you doing?
Good. You know, how many times have we called whatever government agency and you hear our normal business hours are between 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. I had a job where I was making $30,000 and I had to work 80 hours a week.
Well, you know, how many times have you called where it says our normal business hours are between 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m., and it is between then, and they're not picking up? Pick up the phone. What, you're not home? You're not there? You know, I don't get it. Your normal business hours, well, it's Monday through Friday, and here it is, I don't know, 1 in the afternoon. I figured they're just taking a power lunch or something.
Or you're playing Liberace on the phone pad, you know, if you have this problem, press 3. If you need this department, press 1.
Yep, and like you said, a lot of people have to work a lot harder for a lot less money.
Okay, my original point was the flats.
Yes.
You know, even before, you know, when the Browns went away and the Indians weren't doing so good, when you came to Cleveland, at least there was one thing to do, and that was the flats. And it's, you know, what happened there?
Nobody goes down to the flats anymore except to buy ecstasy.
When I heard Kindler's closed, I thought, turn the lights out, that's it. I could not believe I heard that Kindler's closed.
I was down there down the flats on a Wednesday night, and I could have parked on the street. Literally, I parked in that one parking lot on the East Bank over there where the Euro truck is.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about? It always says that Euro stand or what, a gyro stand. Well, it was closed, but the parking lot was open, and there were 3 other cars in the whole lot. And the guy's telling me, parking back. I'm thinking, what, I'm going to get in the way of somebody? I could have parked on the street. There was nothing going on except for there were a bunch of crotch rocket motorcycles all lined up in front of the basement, and there was a news crew from some TV station down there, and I think they were trying to video them going up and down the street doing wheelies. There were no cops. So the perfect place to go to do something new.
I'll tell you where the cops are, and that's why I think that's one of the reasons why the flats went downhill. They're all on 71 and 480, waiting for us to leave the flats, looking for us to have a license plate light out so they can pull us over.
Well, I got friends
that years ago they just quit going. They just would not go to the flats anymore.
Well, I don't know. I don't see that. I mean, I drive up and down 71 every night, and I don't see Cleveland cops out hardly at all. The only thing
is the suburbs mostly.
The Cleveland cops?
No, I mean, it's
the suburban cops.
Yeah, they sit and wait for the people to leave the flats to pull them over for doing 60 and a 61 or having a license plate light out when actually they're pulling them over to see if they had a beer or two.
Well, that's a money-making proposition as well.
That's what it's all about.
Well, I mean, cities don't buy brand new police cruisers and put gasoline in them to have the guys drive around and never write a ticket.
Well, they should be out catching rapists and thieves and muggers and...
This is why I never announce on the radio whether or not Lyndale's out. Because, Lyndale, to me, does some kind of a public service just by getting people to slow down from 80 to 60 if it's only for 500 feet. I'm not going to tell people, watch out for Lyndale, because I do my normal 60 or 65, and I'm not worried about getting stopped doing 65, but I see people, I swear, they're doing 80, and I'm thinking, I was coming to work tonight. I'm coming down 77. It's a Sunday night, right? I'm thinking, why is everybody in such a big hurry, and why are there so many cars on the road? Did something just let out downtown and everybody's heading back to Akron or something? But I thought there's no reason to be doing 80 mile an hour. Where are you going? It's not like you're going to work. I'm going to work, and I'm probably the only guy on the road that was going to work. Everybody.
Yeah, I do the speed limit too. Yeah, you're right. A lot of times, if you go through Cleveland and if you're doing 60 miles an hour, you better have a ramp on your butt.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to run. Thanks for checking in, but it's the truth. If I do 65, I can find myself creeping up higher sometimes. Sometimes I look down on doing 75. Time to back it off a little bit. But there's people blowing by me. And I'm talking, I don't know, 9 o'clock at night. Where the hell are you going? What's the big hurry? Slow down a little bit. Well, Lyndale, like I said, they're a speed bump. There's nothing else that gets people to slow down a little bit. Triple Doppler forecast from TV3 meteorologist Betsy Kling. Tonight, low in the low 20s, currently 24 degrees. Tomorrow, high of 40, and then tomorrow night for the game, temps in the 30s. But currently, I repeat, 24 degrees in Cleveland, 24 degrees. So now when you're going to Brown Stadium tomorrow night, you'll have Rick Abel flying around when his Sky Chief helicopter traffic reports every 10 minutes on the 10s, starting at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. So that'll help you get there and let you know what's going on out there on the road. Your AM home of the Browns is us, News Radio, WTAM 1100. This last caller irked you, Todd?
Yeah, he irked me just a little bit, and I'm not going to identify where I'm in law enforcement, but I'm in the suburbs.
Okay. Oh, about his statement about how you guys don't do anything but wink off license plate lights and write tickets.
If I had I'm going to go real low, a penny for every time I pulled somebody over who said, why don't you go out and get muggers and this and that thing. If they weren't doing what they were doing, I could spend more time going out looking for the muggers and whatnot.
Well, have you had one say to you, I pay your salary?
Oh, yeah. And you know what? And every cop who's out there listening, and we can't do it, but we're tempted. We're tempted to throw a penny back in the car and go, here's your contribution, have a good day. But you don't do it. But, you just got to take it with a grain of salt and take, whatever. And just know that, hey, it is what it is. Words really don't hurt. But blaming the flat demise on the suburban cops in that area is ridiculous. And that's what I gathered from what he was saying, and I totally disagree with it.
All right.
So.
Well, I wondered myself because I thought, when I thought suburban cops, I thought, you got to drive a long way through Cleveland before you get to any of the suburbs.
Right. Those Cleveland cops, everybody that's in safety force in Cleveland's getting the shaft right now, and I really feel for them. So, but this has been marked for a long time. I think Jane Campbell's got another hidden agenda. She says she doesn't want to raise taxes for the taxpayers of Cleveland because I think she still wants to try to backdoor that convention center idea, and that's my thoughts. But then again, I'm not involved in the politics out there. So.
All right. Well, I appreciate you taking my time to call.
Nice talking to you, Gilly.
You too. Be careful out there. Here's a top 10 things not to say to a police officer. Number 10, when the officer says, gee, son, your eyes look red, have you been drinking? You probably should not respond with, gee, officer, your eyes look glazed. Have you been eating donuts? Oh, I'm sorry, actually, 12 things not to say to a police officer. Number 11, I was trying to keep up with traffic. Yes, I know there are no other cars around. That's how far ahead of me they are. Number 10. Do you know why you pulled me over? Okay, just so someone does. Number 9. Gee, officer, that's terrific. The last officer gave me a warning, too. Number 8. I pay your salary. Number 7. You're not going to check in the trunk, are you? Number 6. I thought you had to be in relatively good physical condition to be a police officer. Number 5, are you Andy or Barney? 12 things not to say to a police officer. Number 4, hey, you must have been doing about 125 miles an hour to keep up with me. Good job. Number 3, aren't you the guy from the Village People? Number 2, sorry, officer, I didn't realize my radar detector was not plugged in. And the number 1 thing not to say to a police officer, I can't reach my license unless you hold my beer. However, that is okay in Texas. Well, no one guessed yet. Does anybody on the line have any idea, Edmund, who Jim Bagby Jr. and Al Smith are? No one knows, huh? Do I have to give it away? This should be something some sports fan would know. One would think. Bob, you're on the air.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to know, I want to ask Rick.
This is Rick.
Oh, okay. Who makes people racist?
Who makes people racist, or what makes people racist?
Or what, yeah. Is dealing with people, or...
I don't know. That's a tough question. What makes people... lack of tolerance for others that are unlike themselves. Doesn't matter what color or gender or anything like that, but if you have no tolerance for somebody just because you don't like the color of their skin, or you don't like what country they're from, or you think they're a dumb hillbilly, or whatever, I guess that makes you some sort of a racist. And I guess, you know what? Deep down inside, there's probably a little bit of racist in all of us, and we just try not to admit it. More of the phone calls, more of the program after these important words and coverage of what in the world's happening. I'm Rick Gilmour, the thinking man's friend and the sharpest mind in Cleveland radio, and this is Cleveland's only news radio station, WTAM 1100.
Rick Gilmour.
And I looked at my shop vac and I said, that looks just like Mike Trevisano.
On News Radio WTAM 1100.
And from the looks of the knife and fork sitting on the console in here, no wonder Mike Trevisano looks like a shop vac. He's got his own steak knife and fork in here. What is this, a radio station or a restaurant? We need the restaurant police to come around.
If you're the police, where are your badges? Badges? We ain't got no badges. We don't need no badges. I don't have to show you any stinking badges.
Yeah, well, okay. Little of this, little of that. Open phones here until 10. Drudge Report. Take you up to Art Bell there. And lots of programming here on Cleveland's only news radio. WTAM 1100, you're on the air.
Hi, Gilly. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
You know, Sister had it right. I think the priorities of Cleveland are all messed up. I point to the fact that we built 3 stadiums here in the city of Cleveland for close to $1 billion on our nickel. And I haven't heard one of the owners of these sports teams offer to even help with a low-interest loan or whatever the city of Cleveland. And here they're taking advantage of a freebie on their stadiums. So I have a real problem with that, and I also, they could give the mayor a low-interest loan, and we could use the lease payments as collateral on those loans. Also, we have a property sitting called Burke Lakefront Airport that I'm sure that we can use as collateral for a short-term loan to make sure that the city maintains its security forces.
Trevisano had it right when he was doing a program one day talking about Burke Lakefront ought to be a parking lot. It ought to be a parking lot that you park there and then get shuttle bussed over to a casino on the lakefront.
Have you ever been to Chicago?
No.
Okay, Chicago's lakefront has really developed quite nicely. It has, museums there.
Oh, I've seen pictures. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Navy Pier and all that.
Definitely, and this mayor has to take responsibility. I'm tired of hearing people say, "Well, it was a previous administration." Well, you're in charge now, Lady Jane. It's time to start doing your job.
Well, I think, like everybody says, she's going to be a one-termer.
Well, that's not great for the city of Cleveland. If that's the case, maybe she should be recalled and somebody who has some business sense get in there and correct a lot of the problems here.
Well, my hands are clean. I voted for Ray Pierce.
Well, that's good for you, Gilly.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can sit there and honestly say I didn't vote for her.
Right.
She stiffed me.
Well,
she was supposed to be on the program when she was running, and then she all of a sudden decided to hell with me, and I thought, well, then the hell with her.
Oh, she's kind of like Hillary. She only goes on the shows that are safe,
Oh, I see. One of those.
Yeah, one of those where, it's like, okay, just ask me that, throw those softballs up there so I could hit them out of the park.
Did you watch Hillary this morning on Meet the Press?
Thankfully, I missed it,
Well, I got to watch it, and she's as slick as Willie when it comes to slinging the hash.
Well, she was behind all. You think Bill was smart enough to do all that stuff in the White House?
I mean, she just sat there and went on and on and on and on, and she has this way about her that she carries herself. She looks very professional, and she's had a long time to practice, and I guess she's had a long time to practice slinging the hash, too.
Well, you know what? She cut down the Medicare program, but if memory serves me correct, she didn't exactly come up with a health care program herself, did she?
No.
No.
All right, thanks.
People in glass houses shouldn't throw stones.
Well, there you go. How about the story about the man who stole the king's chair and took it and put it up on the roof of his thatched hut? And the guards came around. The king noticed his chair was gone. And the guards went around from door to door to door to door, and finally they knocked on this guy's door, and they said, "Have you seen the king's chair?" And he said, "No." And just then it fell through the thatched roof and hit him on the head and killed him. And the moral of the story is, he who lives in grass houses shouldn't stow thrones. Tim, you're on the air.
Hey, Rick, how's it going?
Good.
I've often said that you guys were talking about the flats before. I've often said that if you're over 25 years old, you have no business being in the flats anyhow.
Well, I think the people that are over 25 as well, you get to a point where if you want to go out and have a good time, you don't want to have to worry about whether somebody's going to push you off a railing into the water or punch you or whatever. There's places you can go in Cleveland to do something, if you've got a job and money, and it doesn't involve going to the flats necessarily.
You're right, because, there's nothing there that interests me. Rick, you know me. I'm 46 years old. My wife is 27. You've seen my wife.
Yes.
Why would I want to go to the flats to a strip club?
I don't know. Well, the last time I was in the flats, the last bad time I had, I won't name the place just to be kind, but it was my ex-wife's brother's 21st birthday. And he had to go down the flats, and we had to go to this particular place. And the bathroom, the men's room, is upstairs, and there's urine running down the steps. Nobody knew how to use the toilet. They should have just had a hole in the floor. And then everybody threw up on the way home, and I was the designated driver, and of course I did not throw up, but everybody else drank too much and threw up all over my new Jeep. And, I thought, lovely time down there, lovely time.
Sounds like something I did when I was 15 years old, not when I was 21.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I mean, when I was 14 or 15 or something like that, I was probably throwing up foam all over the place, but I don't know, I mean, this was a big thrill for this guy, and I thought, not a thrill for me. Nothing down there I need to see.
Exactly. I mean, I hate to say this, but right now it looks as though Cleveland's a dying town.
It sure does, doesn't it?
I mean, in the 50s we had 3 million people. In the 70s we had about 1 million, and now we're approaching, 500,000?
Yeah, and the mayor's parachuting Somalians and to be cab drivers to try and push the population over 500,000 so we can get federal money.
Well, that'll definitely improve her chances of re-election.
I don't think anything's going to improve her chances of re-election.
You know what, Rick? I kind of miss George Voinovich. I really do.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think of who's the best Cleveland mayor that we've had in a long time. I mean, I remember safety forces telling me they weren't all that thrilled with George Voinovich.
Well,
buddy of mine's a fireman. He's a lieutenant now, but I remember him telling me about how he did not think that George Voinovich was a very effective leader. I guess he backed into a microphone stand and said, "Excuse me" to it, and was in tears. And, I guess the guy's just emotional is what it is. I mean, he didn't seem like a strong leader. You don't want to see the mayor crying.
Well, if you're going to take that attitude, I mean, who in the last, say, 40 or 50 years has been a good leader? Not just a manager, but a leader for Cleveland. I don't think we've had anyone.
I think we need to get Rudy Giuliani in here.
I don't think he wants to take a pay cut.
I don't think so either. I just think that there ought to be somebody out there, some kind of a consultant that's being paid by the city of Cleveland. Couldn't we find another town like the city of Cleveland that's dying as well, that turned itself back around, and how did they do it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you take a look at Toronto. I mean,
Take a look at Wheeling. And you know what did it? Gambling.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a broken record, but I know how talk radio works. You say it, and then you say it again, and then you say it again, and then you say it again. We need casino gambling in Cleveland to try and save this town.
I've often said what we also need in this town is to cut not just the fat from City Hall, but also from City Council. Let's reduce the size of City Council down to 7 members.
Well, the problem is, to do that, we have to do something with the city charter.
Okay. What's that take? Petition drive?
Yeah, like 1,000 people.
1,000 people?
Yep.
I think we could muster 1,000 people to reduce the size of City Council.
And couldn't we find some people with academic talent, that sort of thing, that would want to, if you want to shoot me a voicemail, 216-739-7779. That's the phone number for We the People. It's a grassroots organization that we're trying to get this thing off the ground. If we can get enough people, it'd work.
I've often said that perhaps one of the other things we should seriously consider is eliminating a lot of the other fat from City Hall. I mean, who paid for those signs on East 9th Street that say Rock and Roll Boulevard?
Well, I assume we did.
Okay.
Eventually. I mean, we pay for everything. We're the taxpayers, right?
I guess we did. But
I mean, nobody.
No one came to me and said, "Hey, listen, do you want to rename East 9th Street Rock and Roll Boulevard?"
Well, nobody came to me and asked me anything, and I live in the city of Cleveland. Nobody put it on the ballot, to my knowledge. They just went ahead and did it.
Where'd they find the money?
I don't know. What about them light-up signs that never work?
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, those had to be expensive, and half the time you drive down there, they don't even say anything on them.
Yeah, but they sure look impressive in the daytime, don't they?
I guess. I mean, if you want to pat Boss White on the back for one thing, he sure knew how to turn around downtown, didn't he?
I got to give the devil his due.
Yep. I mean, look at downtown now compared to how it was, because a lot of downtown is dying. No one wants to move a business in on Euclid Avenue. The city of Cleveland is too difficult on small business owners to try and give them any kind of incentive to want to be in the city of Cleveland.
No, why should they? When they can go out to the suburbs, they can go out to South Park. They can go out to Parmatown.
That's right. Well, the days of going downtown to shop are about over.
They are. They're over. I mean, unless you go downtown during the day, forget it. Because after about 6 p.m., downtown is a ghost town.
Yep, it's dead.
It's a great place for winos.
You know what's funny is people say, "Oh, I wouldn't go downtown at night. It's unsafe." I said, "Unsafe? There's no one there. There's no crime downtown because you have to have people to rob to have criminals." You know what I mean? It's like you don't have rats in your house unless you have food sitting around somewhere for them to eat. Well, nobody's going to go downtown to rob people if there's no one down there to rob. I don't know what people are worried about.
Why, by golly, that's one reason to re-elect Jane Campbell. I mean, there's no crime in downtown Cleveland.
Well, it's been that way even under Boss White.
Well, there you go. But
there was nothing.
No people downtown either, though.
Well, I know there's no one downtown, and hardly at all. I mean, if it weren't for Gundurina, some of those bars around there wouldn't even exist.
Yeah, bars, strip clubs, yeah. Gundurina, that's pretty much about it. It's a great place for winos.
All right, Tim.
Take care.
All right, I'll see you. Great place for winos. Oh, hey, here's somebody. You know who those two guys I was asking about earlier are, Larry?
Yes, they were former baseball players for the Cleveland Indians.
Jim Bagby Jr. and Al Smith. But what was their claim to fame? Do you know that?
Bagby stopped Joe DiMaggio's streak.
Yep, they both did. Two Cleveland pitchers who stopped the record 56-game hitting streak of New York Yankee Joe DiMaggio on July 17th, 1941.
Right.
There you go.
I remember that very well. I'm 82 years old.
Oh, well, all right. That helps then, I guess.
And I'm a great fan of sports. But anyway, getting back to this problem of the budget.
Yes.
I see where the stock market is almost up to 10,000, and the employment is down to 5.8. A few of the other things that we worry about, the numbers like 8.2 for the growth and whatever.
Right.
All those numbers are similar to what Bill Clinton had when he was in office. And how come we had such prosperity and everything was going good and booming and everything, and we have those numbers today and everybody's in trouble?
Because they're fake numbers.
You are. That's exactly it.
We're pumping liquidity into the market to try and push it up to 10,000 to make it look like people are buying stocks, and people are not buying stocks. The only reason my money is going into the stock market at all is because I have a 401k plan, which means I have little or no control over where it goes anyway, and all those other numbers are fudged to try and get the president reelected.
Exactly.
And now, you got to also consider that they're trying to turn around what happened on 9/11. They're trying, all it would take is, heaven forbid, one more terrorist attack, and what happens to the airline industry?
Yes. And you talked about Mrs. Clinton on a show this morning. I watched that. I saw that show. She was also on the Stephanopoulos show. I think the woman makes very, very much sense, really.
All right, well,
when she visited in Afghanistan and Iraq, and she came back and told us what the conditions were, I think she made a lot of sense there with everything she said. I really do. I think she was born a politician, just like her old man.
Well, I think you're probably right. I don't necessarily agree with anything and everything that Hillary Clinton would say. It's easy for me to agree with her stance on Iraq because I didn't think we should have gone to Iraq to begin with, and we don't have an exit strategy. Oh yeah, now we're coming up with a plan somewhere. Yeah, we'll make something up. Just tell anybody anything they need to hear, just to make them shut up and go away. Make the people stop saying I'm doing a bad job in Iraq. We never finished the job in Afghanistan. Now that I had no complaints over. Iraq was another story. Could Saddam Hussein have been a threat somewhere down the road? Sure. Was he a threat when we went in there? No. And I've said that 100 times, too. I feel like a broken record. Triple Doppler forecast from TV3 meteorologist Betsy Kling. Tonight, low in the low 20s. Tomorrow, clouds and sun with a high of 40. And then tomorrow night for the game, temps in the 30s. Currently 24 degrees in Cleveland. 24. Get your best Browns coverage right here on the big one. You get your Fifth Third Bank pregame show brought to you by Mitsubishi Motors with Kevin Keene and Brian Brennan. They're going to be live from Gridiron Grill down there tomorrow night at 7. And the Browns and the Rams game will be simulblast on Cleveland's rock station, 100.7 WMMS, and us, your AM home of the Browns, News Radio, WTAM 1100. Steve, you're on the air.
Oh, hi, guy.
Howdy.
Rick?
Yes.
First-time caller.
Welcome.
I understand you like cars.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, question.
Yes.
Question, sir.
Yes.
I have a 55 Thunderbird.
That's a nice car.
That's a nice car.
Right.
Yeah? Would you like to buy it?
I don't fit in them.
Pardon?
I don't fit in them. I'm 6'3", and the last time I sat in a 55 T-Bird, the steering wheel is rubbing my legs, and I'm looking over the top of the windshield frame.
Well, geez, I didn't know that, sir.
Besides, I probably couldn't afford it anyway. Those are rather expensive, aren't they?
Well, I'm selling it. I just want to sell it to you pretty dirt cheap, because I've had it since '63. It's been on the block since...
I'll tell you what. I know someone who would be very interested in buying your car.
Okay.
Can I
I'll leave you my number off the air.
Yeah, I'll put you on hold, and then Edmund will pick up, and you'll give him the phone number, and then I'll get a hold of a buddy of mine who owns a couple of those, and I'm sure if he's listening right now, he's salivating as we speak.
Well, it's in great shape. I got everything, both tops. You understand?
When was the last time it was on the road?
72, 73, 30 years.
Is the motor locked up in it, or?
Oh, the motor was overhauled twice, but it hasn't been driven for...
30 years.
30 years.
I'll tell you what, like I say, I'll put you on hold.
In the garage, inside.
Any rust on it?
Well, there's a little body work. I wouldn't say rust. I mean, it's just...
I got you.
I'm not trying to...
You're not trying to make a killing.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, there might be. So, it's very, very little because all is primed, and there is...
I'll tell you what, I'll put you on hold, we'll get the number, and I'll get you somebody to buy your car.
Okay.
All right.
20,000, tell him.
Oh, well, okay, hold on. 20. I thought he said he was going to be reasonable. Line 1, 20 grand. Take his number anyway. I thought when he said reasonable, he meant more like maybe like 10 grand. That sounds more reasonable. What do I know? Eric, you're on the air.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Saw an article in a Plain Dealer, I don't know, today or yesterday, but did you see where they had the police, or not the police, but the fire department, and they looked at the days that those guys call off, normally on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and then statistically, if you look at the holidays, particularly 4th of July, like 1 in 5 of those guys scheduled to work call off. So, I'm not beating these guys up, but what I'm saying is, the city can probably make some cuts, because if, for example, back to 4th of July, if 20% of your guys scheduled to work call off, I mean, there's got to be some fat in there to make things work when, 1/5 of your force doesn't show up. So I don't know if somebody out there from the fire department can call in and answer that or not. That's got to be higher than a private business. That's my comment.
All right. Well, and I also think that you have to be leery about what you read. I'd like to see 2 or 3 sources instead of just one source, which is what we get with the Plain Dealer. Mark, you're on the air.
Hey, Rick, what's up, man?
Hey.
Hey, I love your show. Listen to it all the time. I work for the city of Cleveland and with the police, and I'm going to be one of the guys affected by the layoff. And, I just had a comment for whoever called in and said that we should maybe take a 10% pay cut. Right now, we're one of the lowest paid cities in the state of Ohio for police, and we have pretty much the highest crime rate in the whole city. So whoever that caller was, I mean, I don't know if they're from Pepper Pike or Beechwood or whatever, but it's...
I guess what the point was that the question came up a few hours ago that would the fellow officers take a pay cut so that there would be no layoffs?
Oh, absolutely. But, 10% is a little ridiculous, being that, like I said, we're one of the lowest paid departments in the state.
Well, what I want to ask you then is, has this ever come up? I mean, has this come up at union meetings?
Oh, absolutely. And 4%, everyone's talking, and, this and that, nothing's definite, but, everyone's willing to give in. But, at first the mayor's talking about giving in, and it's only going to save 40 jobs.
No, you want to save them all.
We want to save them all.
Right. So all you have to do is sit down and figure how much everyone. How many years have you been on?
3 years.
So what's the time cutoff for people that are getting laid off? I mean,
these guys are 5, almost 6 years going to be laid off.
So you'd have to sit around and do the math on how many people they want to lay off, and how much money that would be, and then how much you would have to cut.
Exactly.
And they can
but,
do that.
We're willing to, negotiate in that, but, when you're talking numbers like that, to save 40 jobs, it just doesn't make sense.
No, you got to save them all. That's the only way. The only way I'd do it if I were in your shoes.
That's what we're trying to do.
All right.
So, my comment for that, they have to understand, we are very low paid compared to the rest of the cities in our state in that. So, I don't know what people read or what they're thinking, but Cleveland's a very low paid city in the state. So, what we make now, it's a joke now, but to go down 10% or something like that, it's ridiculous.
All right. Well, just wanted to, I'm glad you called to clear that up.
Great.
All right. Talk to you later.
Take care, Rick.
All right. You too. Bye-bye. Yeah, and for those who think, oh, my God, I'm afraid to go to the city of Cleveland because, the cops, they must be overworked and underpaid. Well, they are. But I'll tell you a little story. I was driving home one night. My car screwed up, and it broke down right on the 14th Street ramp. Here I am stuck dead in the water, and a couple people stopped and asked me if you need jumper cables or something. I said, no, it's a bad starter. The jumper cables aren't going to do it. So a black and white rolls up, and it's a single officer in the car, just one guy in the car. And he says, your car's broke down? I says, yeah. He says, well, let me get it off the ramp here. I'll get around behind you and push it out of the way. So he pushed it out of the way, and I fully expected to walk home, which would have been about a mile. And he said, where do you live? And I said, down there. And he said, get in, I'll give you a ride. He gave me a ride to my door. Now, it freaked out the kids that live next door because I got out of the front seat. So they figure like I'm in cahoots or something there. They're all looking at me funny for the next 3 weeks. But, you know what I'm saying? At least I got a ride home. Thank you, officer, whoever you are. He never heard of me, never listened to the radio program, but, he just gave me a ride home because he was a nice guy. So there you go. So I'll keep you apprised of what's ongoing here with the police and firefighters and EMS workers in the city of Cleveland. Right now, you'll stay tuned to important words and coverage of what in the world's happening, and then the Drudge Report. I'm Rick Gilmour, the sharpest mind in Cleveland radio and your thinking man's friend. And this is Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100.
I just don't know. It's unreal.
I mean, this is ridiculous. It's a radio show. It ain't a 1-hour television spectacular. Is it working now, Gilly?
Yes, Howard.
All right, let's go. Good Lord, let's go.
Cars slipping and skidding and kicking up rooster tails of brown snow.
It's been battered by snow all morning long.
This winter.
Many flights canceled. No flights to Baltimore, Washington, LaGuardia.
Winter storm coverage that's first, fast, and factual.
We do our closings by county and in alphabetical order. We always start with Cleveland Public Schools, and they are closed
Instant
today.
school alert. In-depth team storm coverage.
I'm on Chester right now. I'm just driving on a pure blanket of white.
You can depend on your official weather station. Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100.